Recording. All right, we are broadcasting. We're officially on air with the Rejects Episode 2 behind the scenes. And we have a special guest today, Justin Lutsky, who needs no introduction, but I will give him an introduction anyway. He is a action movie superstar who has made short films featuring the David Puddy character from Seinfeld, who does have a real name. I'll let you. Yeah, Patrick Warburton, and a number of other films. Lots and lots of film festivals. Finalist for On the Lot, which was a Steven Spielberg reality TV show, and stuff like that. What did I miss, Justin?
That's pretty good.
Okay.
Check him out. He does great stuff, especially that How to Be a Superhero. Loved it.
You saw that?
Oh yeah.
Cool.
David sent me. I thought it was awesome, dude. Very cool.
Yeah, we're trying to turn that into a TV series right now.
Dude, I could see it. It would be awesome.
Yeah.
I'd watch it.
All right, so
I'd definitely watch
Oh, yeah.
a couple topics today. The first one is that yesterday the Project Greenlight winner was announced, so congratulations.
Congratulations.
The winning film was Delicacy, right?
Yep.
And let's see here. Yeah, it's online still, right? You can still see it.
Yeah.
Jason Mann is the director, so congratulations to Jason.
Yes, very cool, dude.
That also means that we have a number of fresh rejects that are available to join our anthology film idea. And so if you're somebody who's involved with the rejects and you're watching this, then this is your opportunity to reach out to those people on social media. I know me and Javen have reached out to a number of people already, but it doesn't hurt to have multiple people talk to these folks and see who else would be interested to joining our cause.
It's never too late, as long as you're willing to work.
Yes. So we have a timeline posted in the Google group, and on the timeline there is a vote for the framework that's scheduled for the 28th of this month. So the idea is, all of the brainstorming, all of the kind of ideas of what we could work on together would certainly be due before then, so that we have time to debate them and talk about them and consider them. And we're going to go over, because there was a little bit of interest in knowing what the top 4 ideas are, or the top 3 or 4 ideas are right now. We were going to describe them in this format, which might be easier to follow than all the different forums in the Google group. And for the sake of debate, and for the sake of challenging the ideas and having the best ideas possible, we have Justin Lutsky, who is going to give us feedback on these ideas, and if he ends up having ideas on the spot, he can contribute those and other things like that.
Putting you on the spot, Justin.
Yeah.
I'll do my best.
So
Better.
You go ahead. You go first, Javen, and pitch the Shadow of Library.
You gotta get the title right first.
Right.
All right. So the first idea that I saw was one that David kind of came up with originally, and it was about a cop going through older files or going through old case files. And so I got and ran with it and came up with Library of Shadow. And basically it's about an older cop who comes into his precinct that he used to work at after a bad storm, hurricane, and most of their older files are destroyed, they're wet, the whole entire office is in complete disarray. So his voluntary job, is to go and file them, record them, transfer them onto the computer. And so he's reading all these files, and all the short films will be some sort of case dealing with a darker society, a darker undertone that's going on in the town, that's been going on for the past millennium, century, whatever. And it's just this very southern gothic tone of seedy things that go along in small towns, corruption, ritualistic societies, and stuff like that. It's very morbid and gothic, but in that very True Detective feel, where in the end there's something very malevolent going on underneath it all that is a grand scale event.
Okay, Justin, how do you want to do this? You want to go one at a time, or you want us to go through all the ideas and then you give us feedback?
Well, no, I think I could just jump in here. I mean, that sounds like a really awesome idea. In terms of, I think it's got a lot going for it, especially for low-budget filmmaking. I mean, anything where you can do small, contained town, I'm forever trying to come up with the right idea for that.
Yeah.
And I just personally like stories about seemingly, innocent atmosphere that just below the surface something much greater is going on there. And specifically for your anthology idea, I thought the case files thing was a really cool way to tie in all these different similarly themed and toned short stories. Even more awesome if at the end of it you can tie up it's a detective or who's going through the case files.
Yeah, it's an older detective going through the case files, which it may end up that he is a part of every one for some reason. He may be a bad guy.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to play with that idea. And tonally, I think it could be pretty cool.
Definitely.
Okay, cool. So
it's my favorite.
And then, of course, we can go back and revisit. Another idea was, I think the title's still in flex, but like Blood Moon or Bad Moon Rising or something like that. I think this one would be a little bit, the idea is that it's a series of shorts that take place in one night under a full moon. So one of the things that Javen and I talked about early on is there might be some people who are not really excited about the horror theme. Some people might be really into the horror theme, and we know that anthologies work really well with horror, but it's also the case that maybe somebody wants to make a comedy or something like that. So a lot of weird things happen during a full moon. It could be, corpses coming back to life, or it could be, funny stories in the delivery room, or who knows, like there can be a lot of different things with that. But I do think it even skews a little bit horror. I think maybe the difference tonally between Blood Moon and Shadow would be that instead of kind of the Southern Gothic tone, I see Blood Moon as more of a horror comedy tone, a very light-hearted sort of almost Dead Alive, or I guess we could take it a number of different ways, but
definitely.
The idea would be, the rule would be everybody's short has to start with a moon and then pan down to, whatever the action is of the story.
Yeah.
So it sounds like that idea is a bit broader in terms of tone and genre, I guess.
Yeah.
It depends. Is the thought to try and package and sell this, or?
I think one of the original goals was to kind of get all of the shorts together, but produce them in such a way that they'd have multiple venues afterwards. So, for example, maybe having them all posted on a website that would be one way to interact with them, almost like a Funny or Die, but maybe you could say maybe a horror version of Funny or Die, or just a site that.
Mm-hmm.
So you could package them individually that way, or you could package them together as one big feature. I think probably the ultimate goal would be that we do package as an anthology feature, we submit it to film festivals, and then everybody who's involved with the project kind of meets up at this film festival, really meeting in person for the first time, and sort of hanging out and going to the after party and stuff like that. But I agree with you that the Shadow certainly has a much more concise and feels more together, whereas this feels more a little bit more willy-nilly, which in some cases it makes it a little bit less focused. It also makes it maybe a little bit lower hanging fruit too, because there's less stipulation for all the.
I would say, well, I love horror comedy, so I think it's just a matter of, I think whichever way you go, I try and bring focus to whatever the genre is. Like most of these anthologies seem to have definitely a consistent tone, and even though there may be different filmmakers making these different short films, there's usually some connective tissue between them, and also they kind of fit within a certain wheelhouse.
Yeah.
But if you did, like, for instance, Blood Moon, I wonder if you would try and make them all horror comedies, because I think that's definitely a niche that we don't get enough, like Shaun of the Dead type stuff, or what do you mean? You're like an expert on this genre too, aren't you, Dave?
I did write.
Itsy bitsy is
my first attempt at my master's thesis was on horror comedy.
Yeah.
But then I switched topics. But yeah,
I would find it like weird if I sat down to watch an anthology and I saw the gamut of horror comedy to like torture porn.
That's a good
within
point.
the same collection, it would just feel less like a cohesive, vision, I guess you could say. And
That's a
I'd
good
be
point.
more impressed if
A lot harder to
the first
market too.
idea seemed to have more focus. This idea, if you gave it a genre, it could essentially be the same thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I do like the horror comedy genre for Blood Moon. For some reason, I don't know. Of course, it's always difficult to get music rights, but I keep hearing the trailer to the Bad Moon Rising song. It just seems like it would be a
Yeah.
funny song in the the backdrop of a horror comedy.
Definitely.
Okay, so a third idea that we'll pitch, and we can pitch this together. Do you want to do this one, Javen? The Exquisite Corpse idea?
I was actually thinking about this today, how I was going to describe it in the car. Um, I guess I can wing this one. You pop in if you see me messing up, though. So Exquisite Corpse was an idea that one of our group members brought to us, Lizard King. Great name. But Exquisite Corpse is basically, it's a couple of different steps involved. A, the one person writes the script. Then B, another person directs and casts. But that person directing and casting, shooting, will put in certain backgrounds, like through a window or something, a green screen where someone else can key in a background. And then the third person goes in and keys in the background or adds, I'm not really sure how that third person fits in there all that well. But I know that he can manipulate the footage that he's given and edit it in a way that he sees fit, I guess. And then the fourth person, he scores the film so that each person does their own individual task, but they don't really talk to each other. So it comes up as its own thing. Each person throws their own feel on it. It's almost more like a music thing where the drummer goes, I got this feel, and then the guitarist kind of does his thing. They're all kind of doing cohesiveness in it, but at the same time not affecting each other's decisions other than by what they see and hear.
And I think
it's like the epitome of collaboration with that, and that title is amazing to me. Exquisite Corpse, that's a brilliant title.
well, what makes it really the title really cool too is that the Exquisite Corpse is a game. I don't remember from what country. I feel like it was France or something. So somebody can Wikipedia and find the real answer. But
I'll do it right now.
it was an old parlor game that people would start with a drawing. They draw a few lines and then pass it off to the next person, and then draw a few lines and pass it off to the next person. By the time it got all the way around, it was a complete drawing, but it wasn't really anybody's. It came from the whole group. So it was like a parlor game that people would do. I put my comments about this idea in the Google group, and that I thought it was insanely creative, but also provided a lot of production challenges, which is actually something Justin and I were talking about at lunch. So I'll let him talk about that.
Well, it goes back to my question of ultimately what's the end goal here. That sounds like a fantastically creative and original experimental film, basically.
Exactly.
I think it's a train wreck of a way to make a compelling story.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a totally... I would definitely watch that if I heard a group of guys went out and did that. But if I was trying to actually create a commercially viable short and or feature,
Yeah.
that goes against every instinct I have as a filmmaker. The idea that it's the opposite of having like a cohesive vision that's guiding all these talented people and collaborating with, and it's actually, I mean, I wouldn't even know how that would turn out. That would,
Yeah, it's
depends on if you got an experiment to just have a crazy time doing that, or if you're trying to actually put something out there that's similar to other anthologies you've seen type of thing.
Yeah, I think there's ways to kind of tweak the idea too, so that it's a little bit more of a little bit more of, I guess, lower hanging fruit of a production model that's a little bit more achievable. And one idea, when Justin and I were at lunch with one of the folks over at the Chapman Film School, he had the idea of, let's say the first filmmaker, basically what connects everything is the exquisite corpse. So let's say the first filmmaker, makes a film where the person dies, and then she passes that off to the next filmmaker, who then has to do something with the corpse. They have to dispose of the body or something, and then she passes it off to the next filmmaker, who then has to, figure out, they stumble across a body, who then they have to bring it up, and then she
The
picks it up.
corpse basically starts and ends in one film, and the next film has to pick it up where the story ended, but it's that corpse that travels through story to story. But it's
And
still
then-
filmmakers in the traditional sense making short films just with certain story parameters, like
Yeah.
Right, we basically agree
opening
upon
and ending scene.
we agree upon the order that we go in, and we say, okay, this person's film has to start in this way and end in this way, so that the next person's film could start in that way and then end in another way, and then the very last one would have to, maybe end with like the corpse,
The
all-
skull being on someone's mantle.
something very exquisite,
Yeah.
and then then it kind of keeps the spirit of that idea, but
You could almost, that concept would work for like the Blood Moon idea. You
Yeah.
weaved a corpse throughout those types of stuff.
true.
Also, didn't we figure out there was a short film somebody made called Exquisite Corpse?
No, I think Dan was saying that there was a film called Exquisite Corpse, but it wasn't that idea.
By Scott Russell. It's on DVD. Let's see.
All right, well, we'll have to watch that and make sure that it's as an original
Like
idea.
the title. I'm sure it's
I did a little research, David. Exquisite corpse, also known as exquisite cadaver,
Wait,
is a French term.
on IMDb?
IMDb.
I didn't know. I just Googled this. There's something called the Exquisite Corpse Project, 2012, a first of its kind comedy about 5 writers who are challenged to each write 15 minutes of a movie after having read only the previous 5 pages of the script.
Aha! Dang
So is
it!
it about the writers, or is the writers doing that?
I don't know. I just posted a link.
Okay, in chat.
Okay, yeah, I
All right,
see.
well, in the spirit of anybody who's watching this live broadcast, and for anybody who's trying to watch it later, we'll keep it short. We'll do some of this research offline to research the Exquisite Corpse idea. The same person, Jeff, aka Lizard King, also posted in the Google group some other ideas that are also really experimental and really creative and really interesting. So we'll let anybody who's interested go in and read those ideas, and of course comment, participate in the Google group. Make sure to reach out to people who are who have just been eliminated. Make sure if you're part of the Rejects project to vote on the 28th. And we are also getting to a place where we understand there's a lot of people sort of watching what's happening. Every once in a while I'll get an email from somebody that says, look, I'm not really participating in the Google group, but I had the following thoughts. Feel free to participate. There's going to come a point where we kind of have to draw a line in the sand and say, okay, here are the people who are really serious. Here are the people who are going to actually be able to make something with, versus the people who are maybe just a little bit interested, kind of watching, sort of more wallflower type. But we'll, of course, especially before we get to the point of raising money and all that stuff, we'll really need to know for sure who is in. We have, I think, about there's 32 people on the mailing list, and then I think about 20 people in the Google group, but I think maybe only, like, what would you say, Javen, 5 or 6 that are really...
Yeah, it's about 5 or 6, definitely.
Okay, which actually is enough to make, that really would be
Yeah.
enough. We all did, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So, but of course, if there's more people, if we get to 10 or 12 people who are really, really interested and really want to do it, then, we would just shorten the duration of our film. And I think that's fine. If anybody saw the ABCs of Death, that was an anthology film that had, certainly more than 20 filmmakers, being that they were doing the alphabet, and that they were able to make that work. So we can keep talking, I guess, but just know that the formal part of the Google Hangout is over. So feel free
Is there any
to.
way to tell if anybody's watching?
We have one viewer right now.
How we do?
Hey, dude.
Where do you see that?
I might, since I'm the owner, I might have to. I don't know. I can't see who it is, but it's in the bottom right-hand corner of my screen.
Hey, just kick your desk. Jeez, man.
I did, sorry. And you know what? One viewer, we're like 100% more viewers than we had last time.
I like snorted up water when you said that.
And now I'm Catman.
Oh, man.
Now I'm Catman. Very good.
Okay.
Are we actually going to talk about more serious things, or should I just officially end the hangout?
Do we have anything else we want to talk about?
I could put a pirate hat on Justin. That would be kind of fulfilling.
Do it.
Yeah, I don't know. I personally, now that everybody has theoretically stopped watching, even though I haven't pushed stop broadcast yet. My gosh, I really like all three of the ideas for different reasons. I personally like horror comedy a lot,
Yeah.
just because that's my comfort zone. Um, I like Shadow though because of the atmosphere and like the mood and the
Yeah.
script. Javen's already started writing the script for Shadow, as far as like the opening with the detective and the ending with the detective, and then of course everybody would fill in the space between. But it's really good, and so I like that. Exquisite Corpse is just really creative, so I really like that.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm gonna vote yet.
Yeah, Shadow is one that hit with me because I've always wanted to do something like that. Just living in the South and seeing Southern landscapes that are grand and epic in their own right is just really. I've always wanted to do that. So when you had the idea, I was like, I know what to do with that. I'm jumping on it.
Wait,
Well,
Justin, we have a question for you because we've kind of wrestled with it back and forth.
uh,
One idea is to really use everybody's location to our advantage in these, like try to make it appear that that contributes to the production value by saying maybe even we make as part of the requirement, include a landmark from where you are. Like if we're near Hollywood, we're going to maybe do something by the Hollywood sign or something like that. Now, if we did the Exquisite Corpse idea, then that means the body is traveling like all over the country. The other downside is that, for something like Shadow, if it really is this police officer or this somebody that's set in this gothic environment, then does all of a sudden this need to be a federal agent that has cases all over the country, or or is that idea just not it's not really that worth it? We should probably just focus on one thing.
That, I mean, this gets very tricky to answer. As a filmmaker, just my own personal sensibilities, that first idea is the one that appeals to me, but it's also the most challenging, I think, to pull off. That's the type of thing where I'd love a producer to come along and say, we're shooting this idea, we have a great filmmaking relationship with some, like Louisiana or some southern city that has a lot of great film incentives, and we're going to pick 5 filmmakers, and you're all going to make shorts in this environment with these kind of broad parameters, all centered around this detective thing. That to me, that could turn out really cool. But it would be like producing a feature, basically.
Right, and it'd be more expensive too, because is the implication that like people would actually travel out to there and do it there?
That's what Justin's saying is exactly how I feel as the kind of producer of this project. That's what I want. Like, ideally, that's what I would like to do is bring everyone to where I am and be like, hey, here's my sandbox, play in it.
Well, that's a huge thing, though. Writing or coming up with an idea that you can capitalize on unique resources that you've got that nobody else has, or not many people else have, is a great way to be successful making low-budget films.
Exactly.
And I mean, like we have friends who in Mississippi who have all sorts of amazing resources and locations out there, and people like try and shoot a movie in LA, and everybody will gouge you for as much money as they can, but go to someplace like Mississippi and they welcome you with open arms, and you can get away with all sorts of stuff that you would never be able to do in a savvy film town. So that's a huge thing. Like if people, like the first level is, okay, everybody just go off and make a short film that loosely ties into this, structure or subject matter. But the next level, I think, would be if they could they could do some traveling, and you could set up something a little more ambitious using those kind of resources. That would just take it to the next level.
Yeah, that's a good point. You can almost prioritize the ideas by like achievability and say, all right, since this is our first project, we're just going to do the easy one first. Then we'll do the middle one. Then we'll do the most complicated one. But then you're looking at like, as far as a gratification, you're looking at like a 5-year, But I think that, yes, that is interesting. I had another point, but I don't remember what it was.
Where are you located?
Which one? Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in North Florida. It's right below Alabama, the line and stuff like that. But there's so many just grand scale locations, and I'm getting a little bit of notoriety in the area and stuff like that. So it's like I'm getting a little more access to things I wouldn't normally have access to, but it's just I'm out taking photos all the time of all the stuff I see because I'm always shocked at what I see. It's actually not that far from where they filmed True Detective and stuff like that recently. So.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is just agree and second with what Justin said. When we were doing Fetch, which was a short film that I did in college, shooting in Colorado was so much easier than dealing with Southern California at all. It was just as Justin described. People were excited that we were there and like happy to help, and would stand outside and watch the shooting and stuff like that. Which in LA, people just are annoyed that they have to take a different traffic route or something like that.
Yeah. It's like definitely out here. I went to a neighboring town that has a lot of old school, like the column houses and stuff like that, big grand southern homes. And I have no money. I'm a little like indie filmmaker, do stuff for YouTube. And I go in there, I'm like, hey, I would like to talk to the owner of that house. I would maybe try and convince them to let me film there. And they're like, come on in. We're going to give you the full-scale tour. I'm like, you guys have no idea. I'm nobody. Like, I have no money. And they thought I was, royalty or something. It was awesome.
The idea, though, would be to raise money to shoot this stuff, right?
Totally. Definitely. The idea would be like try to do something on Kickstarter. In fact, that's another good point. Let's say we have the 22 people or whatever in the Google group right now, and let's say that come voting day, everybody does cast a vote, and we're able to determine everybody in the Google group really is interested. And let's say that Shadow gets 10 votes and Blood Moon gets 10 votes, just hypothetically, just to say that. If we raise enough money on Kickstarter, you really could go for it, and the people that want to do this other one go for it.
Yeah.
If I heard about this, I keep forgetting the title for the first project.
Shadow, Library of Shadow. Sorry,
yeah.
Library of
I
Shadow.
heard about a project like that, and I was a filmmaker that was going to do a short film for it and raised a budget to do it. So given that setting and locale, if you didn't have the perfect place in Florida, I would definitely call. David, Rick Moore in Mississippi.
Yeah.
I think they would love a project like this where 5, 6, however many filmmakers come out.
Yeah.
And they could
probably be right up their alley.
My buddy's name, he runs the biggest production company in Mississippi right now, and he just acquired these brand new sound stages that he's taken over. So he's at the center of all these amazing resources, and their bread and butter is mostly commercial work, but he really wants to be doing more narrative, creative stuff, and I think he'd really dig a project like that and would be able to bring a lot to the table, and come on as a producer type of a thing.
That's a really good point. Maybe depending on the money that we raise, maybe we would approach them and say, all right, well, here's the budget. Are you interested in facilitating the production?
Yeah.
That would be sweet.
Because I flew out there to do those book trailers, and it was awesome to just go out there and have them take care of all the production stuff that was right there at their fingertips.
Yeah.
In a place that welcomes filmmaking. Much easier to get stuff done.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's continue the conversation in the Google group if anybody's still watching, or if anybody is watching this now, post it on YouTube after it's not live anymore. Any ideas, any feedback, anything can, of course, go into the Google group. And if you're having trouble accessing the Google group, then definitely let us know. It's just the easiest place for us to communicate right now. The other thing I think we said we might have talked about is the idea of a website. And I think that we, of course, will need that eventually. And the idea is just like, finding the... It sounds like the last time this came up in the Google group, there was a couple people that were pretty willing to chip in a little bit of money even before the Kickstarter to just get a proper website up, which would be fine.
Yeah. I think if we're going to go at the website, we need to do it right before we go for Kickstarter so people can have a place to go to see all of our stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Cool. All right. Thank you very much, Justin, Javen. Pleasure talking with you both.
Whee!
Until next time. Bye.
Excelsior!